This video is to make up for the technical issues that we were having in last night's class at Cedar Hall, particularly for those people who were zooming in to the class. What we talked about were patterns that are called dominant seventh arpeggios in classical music, and in folk music and jazz they're called sometimes a 5-7 chord, or if we're talking about chord names, they're the chords that you might see on a chord chart that are like A7 or D7 or C7. They're really, really important patterns for the chord progression or the harmonic structure of all Western music, not just fiddle tunes, but classical and everything you can hear on the radio. They're also finger patterns, and for us as fiddle players, I really think it's helpful for us to be able to recognize finger patterns and melodic patterns that we see coming up over and over in fiddle tunes, because it shortens the time that it takes us to learn a new tune rather than trying to memorize just a random series of notes. When we can recognize these patterns within our tunes and we can say, that's just a piece of a scale, or oh, that's a major arpeggio, or oh, that's a 5-7 chord or a dominant seventh, it just makes learning the tune so much faster. So I want to start by going over what those patterns are. A little bit confusing in terms of how they're named, and I'm not really going to get into that right now, but we're just going to call them by their letter names for now. So in the tune that I taught, which is Lake on the Mountain by Graham Townsend, we have one particular dominant seventh arpeggio that we saw coming back over and over and over, and it was a G7 chord. Okay, so the G7 chord is kind of like a G major arpeggio, which sounds like this. Of course, we see that pattern all over the place in tunes. The difference between a G arpeggio or a G chord and a G7 is that it has a fourth note in the arpeggio. So instead of just being G, B, and D, we add an F natural. Okay, so it has kind of a colorful sound to it. And if I put the whole thing together going up and down, it sounds like this. Okay, so play that with me starting on the G string. Ready? In. Feature of all of these 5-7 chords, no matter where they sit on our instrument, is that we will see a repeated finger use. So in this case, we're using second finger on the G string and second finger on the D string, but what's important, if I get my other fingers out of the way, is on the G string I'm playing B, which is a high second finger. On the D string I'm playing an F natural, which is a low second finger. So it's really important that we get that different shape. Okay, so they're not both high second fingers. And we're going to see in the next octave that that happens also on a different finger. So if we start again on that open G string, let's play that together and just pay attention to where your second finger is landing on that fourth note. Ready? Go! Awesome, okay. So right now that might not sound familiar to you, but when we get into learning the tune, you'll see these are patterns that you hear all the time in tunes. Okay, we're going to play that same arpeggio, but we're going to play it up an octave now. So we're going to start on third finger on the D string, and this time it's finger 1 that's going to move. So I'm going to play the same notes, G, B, D, F natural. But when I go up in this octave, I'm playing that G third finger. B natural is first finger where it always lands. D is my third finger on the A string. And here's that color note. I'm going to pull that first finger back without moving my hand. I'm going to play an F natural low first finger. And then the top note is a G. So let's play that pattern together. Ready? Go! Good. Let's do it again and really just pay attention to what it feels like to play this pattern. Ready? Go! So those are the two particular 5-7 chords or dominant seventh arpeggios that happen in Lake on the Mountain. These are patterns that you see all the time in fiddle tunes, and I encourage you to be familiar with how they sound and how they feel in your hand. And when you start working on them that way, I think you'll recognize them, particularly at the endings of our fiddle tunes, at the end of an A part or at the end of a B part, very, very common features, because they represent that really strong 5-1 chord progression that always brings us back home to our original key. So that is a 5-7 chord, particular to the G7 chord. There are many other chord variations, but that's just 2 of the 3 finger patterns that we are going to be seeing with those arpeggios. So I'm going to make another video now for you with Lake on the Mountain by Graham Townsend, and I'll go over that tune for those people who missed having that class on Zoom last night. Okay, thanks so much.